is going on? It's time for another episode of Damien Ruins Horror Movies. My name is Damien. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Cool Dude Inc. And tonight's movie is Pieces. I actually found this DVD at a pawn shop probably about 10 years ago. I'd never heard of this movie before. I bought it. I think I paid $1.50 for it. And it's even got a clear case. And it has handwriting in it. It says 20% off. I think the director wrote that. But look, it's the original disc. I watched it. I wasn't sure what to think about it upon my first viewing. But then I later kind of fell in love with it. And the more I watch it, the more I like it. But if you don't have a handy pawn shop to go to find it, because what are the fucking odds? Let's face it. It's on Shudder and it's on Tubi. So if you don't have Shudder and you don't mind commercials, then go watch it on Tubi. But if you don't like commercials and you have Shudder, then go watch it on Shudder. Or switch back and forth and watch both. I don't care. Just go watch it. It's awesome. 1982. Directed by Juan Picor Simon. Or Simone. I'm not sure how to say it. And I will apologize in advance. Today's a work day. So when I do these after I've worked all day, they're kind of, all bets are kind of off, okay? And I feel bad because I've been wanting to do this movie for a long time. And now I'm like, I gotta do it. Because I did just watch it. I rewatched it last night. So let's dive in. Oh, but first, before we dive in, why don't you dive into that subscribe button? That's not really a button. But subscribe, like, share. You know the drill. You know how it works. It opens with a header. Boston, 1942. There's a kid. He's in his room alone, putting a puzzle together of a naked woman. He's one piece away until his mom walks in and catches him. And she's like the schmut police. Schmut. Is schmut still a word? She's like, what is this schmut? She freaks out, throws the puzzle, and like tries to make him clean it up. And she's like, hurry up, stupid. So I think there's something already wrong with mom before the puzzle. Because I don't know, if I caught my daughter putting a puzzle of a naked man together, I wouldn't punch her in the face. I'd be like, what is this? I don't know. I wouldn't do what this woman did. But the kid, it's like, oh, you want to get crazy? I will one up your crazy. He goes in the other room. He comes back with an axe and just starts hacking her up. Then he hacks her up into little pieces. Hence the title, Pieces. A little bit later, the neighbor lady comes walking up for no apparent reason. And she knocks on the door and nobody answers. And despite having no reason to think that something's up, really, because I don't think she heard any screaming or anything, because she didn't come right away. But she's like, you know what? Nobody answered. I would think they'd answer. I'm going to call the cops. Jump into conclusions a little bit. I mean, she's right, but she just doesn't have those, like, you have warning signs that tell you that, hey, something's wrong in there. So the cops show up. They find the bloody mom. And then they find the bloody little kid. Clearly it's not his own blood. He's hiding in a closet. And the cops just kind of assume he has nothing to do with it. How's that for white privilege? Oh, he's innocent. Just ship him off. He's got an aunt an hour away. Ship him off over there. Should we question him? Nah. No, he's good. He's fine. He's a victim. He probably narrowly escaped the killer. Should we question him about, like, what the kill? No. No, just send him to his aunt. The kid's been through enough. Do not talk to him. Don't look at him. Just leave the poor guy alone. And then we forward to present day. 1982, I'm assuming 1982 is present day. 40 years later, and there's a girl riding a skateboard. She's like going downhill. The camera is following her until she runs. And I don't know if you remember the 8-bit Nintendo game, Back to the Future. There was a level where you were on a skateboard and you had to like dodge stuff. And it had like two guys walking with a big pane of glass. And you had to like not run. If you ran through it, you died and you had to start the level over again. Well, this girl literally runs into that same thing and she hits it and it kills her. Only she doesn't get to start over. But it's just funny. It's like it just proves to me that this was an actual risk in the 80s. That if you were going fast down a hill, be it running on a bike or on a skateboard, although it seems more often than not, if you're skateboarding in the 80s going downhill in like a downtown environment, there's a good chance you're gonna go through a big sheet of glass, just like this girl, just like Marty McFly in the 8-bit Nintendo game. So that was a risk in the 80s. However, not as prevalent as quicksand or a snake bite or stepping into a rope trap. You know, the rope trap that you're upside down hanging from a tree. Those are 4 big things you had to look out for. According to like what I saw on TV, I was like, man, at some point in my life, I'm going to have to deal with one of these, at least one of these scenarios. So far, I've been pretty lucky. I haven't dealt with any of them. The closest, there's a couple times where I almost stepped in quicksand, but it turned out it wasn't quicksand, it was just mud. Still scared the shit out of me, though. But the funny thing is, this girl has absolutely nothing to do with the movie. Because the movie, as we unravel, is about a murderer killing people, not glass killing people. It's not called Glass Pieces. Ba-da-ba. There's not really even a main character in this movie until about halfway through. However, there are like these flashback sequences that make you wonder, it's like, are we going back in time to the little boy in the puzzle, or are we current time with there's a dude constantly putting together puzzle pieces of naked women? Which is weird because I've never seen a puzzle of a naked woman before. And the puzzle, I don't know whose fault this is, but the puzzles that he's putting together now, I'm assuming it's now, look just as old as the one from the opening. So I don't know if it's because the puzzle's from 1982, so it looks old, and they didn't make it look like it was from the 40s, or if just naked girl. I don't. Maybe he's a collector. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm not even sure why he's still putting puzzles together at this point, because at the same time, he's also killing women. Yes, he has graduated on to puzzles made of actual woman body parts that he's killed with his trusty chainsaw. And he's hiding in a tree, and he kills his first victim. Willard, the groundskeeper, who played Bluto in Popeye, and he's been in a lot of other shit, is next seen with a chainsaw, making him kind of the red herring. And the dean sees him. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing? You be careful of it." He's like, "Oh, I will." He's like this big oaf. And that night at the pool, well, first of all, we get a little bit of some boobage. But next we get this girl, Jenny. It's her boob. It's her boobage. She's undressing at the pool because she's going to go skinny dipping. Not really skinny dipping because she just takes off all her clothes, but she has her bottoms on. But the way she takes her clothes off is so weird. I don't know if I'm nitpicking. Maybe I'm just a stickler for detail. But she takes off she's wearing pants. She's wearing jeans. So she sits on the stool. She takes off her left shoe. Then proceeds to take off her left pant leg all the way down. And then when that's off, she still has a legging on and another shoe. Then she takes that shoe off and takes the rest of her pants off. And it has no effect on the story whatsoever. But it was just really weird to me watching it. It's like, who the fuck takes their fucking pants off like that? I don't let shoes on my feet dictate to how much clothing I'm wearing. Willard spots the chainsaw. He sees the girl, then he sees the chainsaw. How did that work? Did he see her? Damn it, I think she's already dead. So he sees the girl, she's dead. He sees the chainsaw. And then, we haven't met him yet, but Kendall ends up being our main character guy. And he walks in. So Willard sees him, sees the dead girl, sees chainsaw, and this puts, he does the math. He's like, oh, this guy killed that girl. And Kendall's like, the fuck I did. So Kendall gets out of there, and then the cops come in. And now suddenly, Kendall's not the suspect anymore. Willard's the suspect. And Willard's like, the fuck I am. And instead of like talking, trying to make his case or anything, he just starts beating the shit out of the cops. There's like 3 cops. First time I watched that, I thought there was 4. I didn't realize Kendall's in the back. Kendall comes in with the 2x4 and hits old Bluto in the shoulder and rips his shirt. But then he proceeds to beat the shit out of them still. Lieutenant Bracken pulls a gun on him. He's like, bitch, I'm going to shoot you if you don't stop beating us up. Willard stops beating him up. And Willard gets off the hook. They realize, hey, you had nothing to do with it. You just happen to be there. You're the groundskeeper. It's really not that weird that you were there. But it is kind of weird because the girl, Jenny, who's now dead, Kendall didn't show up by accident. Kendall was supposed to be meeting her. That was their little date. They had a little plan for the night. Kendall, the little ladies man, he was supposed to meet her there. But instead of being there on time, he got this note saying to do blah, 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 which he put together later to realize, like, oh, the killer gave me this note. Which, if I'm the cops, I'm like, this is such bullshit. You wrote the fucking note so you'd have an alibi so you go kill this girl. You're going to jail. Instead they buy it, they're like, wow, this kid is sharp. It's almost like he was made to be a cop. That was his date. She's dead, and he doesn't seem like he could be less bothered by it. Lieutenant Bracken, the Willem Dafoe looking motherfucker, he kind of looks like Willem Dafoe and Tom Atkins had a kid. And he's got this perpetually unlit cigar hanging from his mouth. Which is funny the way the scene's got. 1 minute there's no cigar at all. Next minute he's like, and he like, you're just waiting. It's like, will you either will you light that thing or ask somebody for a light? It's frustrating. The more I watch it, I'm like, oh, there's that goddamn cigar again. But he's convinced that the killer is, part of the faculty. It's an inside job. And he thinks it's Professor Brown. And somehow the chick students are attracted to Professor Brown, which is really weird. And nothing against gay people, but Professor Brown seems really gay to me. So girls be like, I'm going to try and sleep with him. It's like, well, I understand being friends with him and stuff, but it's like, isn't it obvious that this slumber party you got planned is never going to happen? I mean, look at the guy's mustache. But at the same time, Kendall is considered a ladies' man, and he looks like a welcome back Kata reject. The cops kind of like adopt Kendall. They're like, this kid. It's like, we're short-staffed. We need somebody on the inside. We got women going undercover. They introduce Kendall to Mary. Mary, the beautiful professional tennis player gone cop. She's not playing tennis anymore. But she's going to go in undercover at this college as a tennis instructor. And by the way, she has a match with a student, and it's like, good match. Afterwards, she wins. Narrowly won. Was not. I don't watch a lot of women's tennis. I was not impressed with her tennis skills. I do not believe. Like, I'm surprised her cover wasn't blown. And I know she's in a situation where it's like, well, if I'm too good, they're going to realize I'm the professional tennis fucking Mary Riggs. But if I'm not that good, they're going to be like, this chick's an undercover cop. She can't play tennis for shit. But they basically tell Kendall that it's like, okay, you're her backup. You need to keep an eye on her. Blah, blah, blah. Just make sure that she's okay. And she's kind of like, well, I don't really want to be a tennis player. I want to be a cop. And the cops, they have this like dragnet. Bracken is just like, don't worry about that. That Walter Cronkite thing. Don't worry about that, Mary. You'll be playing so much tennis, it'll be coming out of your ears. Like, what does that even mean? She doesn't want to play tennis. Otherwise, she would have stayed pro. It's like, Bracken, I just imagine they're like, all right, Mary, Kendall, see you later. And they're just chilling out, doing whatever. Like, can we leave the police station now? Or are they gone? We're going to go party, and then we'll be back here when they get here. Because they're like the worst cops ever. Even for horror, I mean, they're more involved. For horror movie cops, they're pretty involved the whole movie, but they're terrible. And as far as like horror movie and cops goes, this does feel more like kind of a cop movie. Like when the original When a Stranger Calls is scary for the first 5 minutes, and then the rest of the movie is kind of like this like New York beat cop type thing. This doesn't exactly feel like that, but it's the same scare factor where it's like, is this even a horror movie anymore? This one is more of a horror movie because people die. And there are situations. It's build up. It's mystery. Who's the killer? So later, Kendall gets done having sex with some girl. I don't know if he actually got done because he like kind of like bitched to her. He's like, well, you're being too loud. Like says no guy ever. It's like, if you're gonna keep being loud, I'm just gonna leave. So finally he's like lecturing her. I think he sees out the window. He sees like Mary walking. He's like, oh, I gotta go find Mary. I might be wrong on that, but Mary is out walking. He leaves her. And in his mind, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go find Mary. Because let's face it, Mary's hot. Mary's a hot older woman. Kendall's he's getting all this attention suddenly. Or I don't know, maybe he's always gotten it. But before he catches up to her, Mary's walking alone, and there's this weird scene where this Asian dude jumps out and like starts doing all this karate and kicks near her. Doesn't actually touch her, but he's like, whoa. Like, the threat is there. But it's so weird and out of place. It's like in Cabin Fever when that little kid starts doing all that karate shit, and the guy's just watching him like, what the fuck? Except it's just this really long, like, why is this in here? And it's so weird. But finally, Mary, like, just punches him in the dick and drops him. And then she hears what sounds like a chainsaw, and she's like, oh shit, all the people have been killed by a chainsaw. But then she looks in the distance and sees, like, this, like a motorbike coming at her. And it's good old Kendall. Kendall rode his motorbike from the girl he just had sex with to Mary to ask if she was okay. And she's like, yeah. He's like, what's up with this guy? And Kendall looks at him and is like, hey, that's my kung fu professor. Which is, what the fuck is a kung fu professor? What are you majoring in college that there's a kung fu professor? Especially because, like, he wasn't planning to be a cop, but now he's slowly being brought into the police force, and he already has a kung fu inspector. That you would think would come in handy at some point in this movie. It doesn't. It's not foreshadowing. It would have been cool if at the end he's like, by the way, I know kung fu, and start whooping ass. Spoiler alert, that doesn't happen. But the kung fu professor wakes up. He's like, oh, I don't know what happened. I was walking down this alley. Suddenly, I'm waking up on the sidewalk. Must have been some bad chow mein. It was kind of, it's that racist Asian thing that you can get away with because we haven't really oppressed Asians in this country. I don't know if you still can, but I know there was from like 1980 till like WWE SmackDown. It was totally positive. It was totally like, yeah, go ahead and make fun of them. Just there's a definite selection on like who we're going to be racist against, and if you want to throw some Asian stuff in there, that's fine. They're not our bread and butter right now. We're not worried about that. They don't give a shit what. So Kendall walks Mary home. She's like, well, thanks for walking me home. Next door, he's like, well, aren't you going to invite me in for a drink? You going to make me some coffee or something? And she's like, some other time, because Mary's not into Kendall. And that's somehow weird for Kendall to, like, you're not into me? You don't want to have a drink with me? I saved your life. But he gets shot down, and when he turns around, there's, like, this stupid mask that gets in his face. Kendall lets out this bitch-ass scream. The whole part's weird. But, like, the mask in his face was meant to scare you. The scary part was his scream where you're like, what the hell was that? It was just weird. Then his friend takes the mask off. He's like, it's just me. And the friend runs off. It's like, why? Like, weirdest jump scare ever. But they keep investigating. And it's not until Susie's death, whoever the hell Susie is, she gets chainsawed in the locker room bathroom stall. And I did read on IMDb that, like, when it zooms in on her pissing her pants, the chainsaw really scared her, and that's really her pissing her pants. I don't know if I believe it, though, because it zoomed in so perfectly. Where it's like, well, you just got some pervert cameraman who just happened to be filming her crotch anyway, and then she pissed her pants is like, it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, way to sell a story, but I don't think she really pissed her pants. I mean, she could have really. I don't think she did it. I don't think she did it the way you said she did. But upon her death and seeing it, is finally Kendall for the first time shows emotion, and he gets upset. Not as much as Mary, because Mary, in this ridiculous exaggeration, just starts yelling "bastard." Not once. Bastard! Not twice. Bastard! But 3 times. Bastard! And it's so long and ridiculous that you're just like, what just happened? I've been taken out of the moment now, because now I think Mary's weird. Mary goes over to the dean's house. And I'm not sure if it was, I don't remember why. I don't remember if it was to talk about Susie or whatever. Because the dean doesn't know that Mary's a cop. That's kind of the point of her being undercover. So she goes to talk to him, and he's like, would you like something to drink? I'm having tea. She's like, I'll have some coffee with saccharin. And the person who's been putting puzzle pieces together this whole movie, it flashes to the house. The house inside looks just like the dean's house, because, spoiler alert, and what do they call that? The reveal. It's the dean the whole time. The mystery is solved. Except Mary doesn't know that. So he goes and makes her some coffee and puts some... I didn't notice him drug it, because I assume, because he has a cabinet, and he puts instant coffee in, and then he's got a cabinet where he puts some droplets. It's like an eyedropper. I assume that was the saccharin, but I think that might have been some date rape shit. I'm not sure, but well, it's funny because the tea kettle goes off, and he pours it in there. Then he takes it back out there, and she's sitting there, and they start talking, and she's just like, it's like, that's not how you drink hot beverages. It's like, and she's like gulping it. Like, she finished that cup of coffee in about 2 minutes, and then it's like, whoa, I'm starting to feel a little woozy now. It's like, well, your mouth should be fucking burnt. Like, you should have blisters. But then he comes clean. He's like, I'm the killer. Fuck, I don't remember how he got to that point where he's just like, I'm just going to knock myself off. But she's not feeling that well. He's like, yes, that's because I drugged you. And you are going to go into a paralysis. You won't be able to move or speak, but you'll be able to hear and see just perfectly. Because she is going to be the final piece of his puzzle. Which I'm not sure what he needed, because he pretty much had everything together. And he even took 2 legs off the same body to make his doll that he was working on. Meanwhile, at the police station, they figured out the dean used to have a different name. They find out that the dean is the kid from the beginning of the movie putting the puzzle together with the mom that died that lived with his aunt. And maybe he's killed his mom. And so they're like, we think it's the dean. And then Kendall's like, holy shit, Mary's on her way to the dean's house. They're like, we gotta get over there right now. And they take Kendall all the way over there. And then as they're getting ready, it's like, we're going to barge in. This could get bad. We're not a cop yet. You have to wait out here. And Kendall's like, but I've gone this far. I really want to go in. They're like, well, all right. Stay behind him and you can come in. But like each step is like, Kendall, you have to stay here. But I really want to go. All right, Kendall, come with us. And they go, and the dean's hiding. Mary is like on the couch, can't move, fully aware of what's going on. She can see, she can hear, she just can't communicate at all. So Kendall's like, oh, is the dean here? And she's like, with her eyes, like the viewer, you can see like she's looking at the drapes like as if to point, like, yeah, he's right there. He's over there. Follow my eye beams. I'm looking right at him. And the cops are like, well, he's gone. You stay with her. See if maybe you can get her upright and feeling better and walking around and get her out of here. We're going to go down here and look for the dean. And she's like, fucking dean is right there. He's right there. But she can't move anything. So they leave. And then the dean comes out and him and Kendall have a big showdown. and Kendall kills him. It's an abrupt wrap up. And this movie has a little. This movie has enough nudity for everyone. It's got boobs, butt, beef, and dick. So whatever you're into, this movie's got it. Small portions, but it's all there. The badass award goes to not Kendall. He was so close. The goofy looking ladies man who saves the day, except it was Lieutenant Bracken who actually saved the day, while Kendall was an overacting little bitch who eventually got his nuts ripped off by a corpse. Yeah, the Kendall Dick Claw end scene, probably the weirdest way to end a movie I've ever seen, next to, but was also an awesome ending, Return of the Living Dead. And it's Kendall screaming like a bitch once again. So you want to be a cop. What did we learn? Survival tales. Don't turn your back on dudes with chainsaws. Don't go skinny dipping alone. And watch out for kung fu professors in the night. That's it, folks. Once again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and listen to the Whiskey Bats. See you next week, or sooner, or later. You never know.